Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our preview for Fargo Season 5, Episode 10. This episode's titled Bisquick. I have one simple statement to start this off.
Hmm.
It's going down, y'all. If
I
you
know.
have seen, if you guys have seen the preview, oh boy, we are gonna have action and drama and chaos and tunnels and so much else crammed into this last episode.
That preview was chaotic. Like I watched it a bunch of times trying to pull out little things out of it. And there's a little bit in there, but it was just really so chaotic and random and everything that was just going on.
Yeah,
And that's what it feels like this is going to be like. This episode is going to be chaotic.
yeah.
I mean, it has been ramping up and up and up to this battle of Roy versus Dot and who's going to get out of this alive, if anybody. I
Yeah.
mean, the preview gave away one big thing that I was kind of like, I know that Dot is going to get out of this whole thing alive. I think we all know that she's going to escape. I don't think they're going to end
Yeah.
this with like, oh, and this was all for nothing and Dot is dead or something terrible has happened to Dot. But they gave away in this preview that she's going to be rescued. They have her sitting in the back of a car driving away. And I mean, that's only happening if she's gotten off the ranch. And I kind of wish they hadn't put that in the preview. Like, I know she's going to be rescued, but I've
Yeah.
been waiting to have that moment in the finale. So I was a little bit like, why? Why did you give me the good stuff before I watched the episode?
I think it's like you guys can do shorter promos sometimes. I rarely ever advocate for this, but it is just like sometimes you just give away a little bit. Just give away a tiny little more so get us excited and then get for the episode airing. I mean, we have a lot to be excited about here. Clearly, like we didn't even need a preview to honestly get excited about this episode.
It's true.
All right. Well, we are going to get so much into all of this, but before we do, be sure to hit that subscribe button because we do have our Fargo finale review coming up, but this is also a very, very busy week. Earlier this week, we took on Criminal Record, new Apple TV Plus show, really good this weekend. We had the premiere of Monsieur Spade as well as True Detective Season 4, and we want you guys to dive fully into those as well.
Absolutely. There's a lot of murder mystery coming up here at the channel, so hit that subscribe button.
Okay, let's start with one of my favorite things to talk about. Let's talk about titles, everyone. I am somebody who I memorize a lot of episode titles. I put a lot of stock in them.
Mhm.
I think Fargo does as well. I mean,
Mhm.
this last episode was titled The Useless Hand, and that was an instance of us being like, what does that mean? And then you watch the episode, it makes sense. And I think we all kind of have a reasonable understanding of Bisquick. If I'm being honest, I have not thought about Bisquick in at least 15 years before I saw this episode title. I make my baked goods from scratch. I don't have
And
many
they are good.
I don't have many humble brags when it comes to cooking, guys. So I'm taking this one. But I think there's something to this. I think it is somehow involved in the action or the drama of this episode, even if it's indirectly. Like the comparison I think of in my head, Breaking Bad's episode Box Cutter, where you look at that and be like, Box Cutter? That's interesting. And then you watch the episode and you're like, oh, Box Cutter. And all of a sudden it takes on something entirely different. I think Noah Hawley's up to something here. It's hard to say exactly what, but I see you, Noah.
Yeah, we know that Bisquick is connected to Scotty and that Dot has, made it for her daughter and that it is something that is connected to home and going home. So is it going to be something where she's making biscuits? That is in the synopsis. Listen, this synopsis is really short, as they all are. Lorraine makes a visit. Dot makes some biscuits. So at some point in this episode, she's going to be making some biscuits. So is that going to be at the end of the episode when she's home with her daughter, with her husband? Lorraine's going to make the visit. Is Lorraine going to make the visit actual to the ranch? I mean, in the last episode, we didn't see any sort of movement on that, but it feels like we're going to have a nice wrap up at the end of this episode with Lorraine making a visit to Dot, who's making biscuits for her family. And we actually get to see that she has some peace. And I think that that's why it's named that we've got this motivation to be able to get home to her family.
Is it possible that I am trying to extract meaning in every physical object of this show? Possibly. This may also be why I spent way too long obsessing over a tank that may not have any larger bearing on the rest of this show at all. But this is what this show does to us, and I
Mhm.
think that's what makes it so interesting. I mean, a big thing about Dot in particular, and she's really gonna need this more than ever now entering this finale, is that she is going to find some sort of creative solution to get out of this problem. And it is a big one because, yes, you have the feds that are there, but you also have Roy. You have all these people that Roy has called in. You've got, his father in law, all the people who have sort of been out there with him. Like, you
Mhm.
have all these different forces that are sort of converging on this one spot. And it's sort of to use like something straight out of Game of Thrones. Will they bend? Will they
No,
break? Who
okay.
will be the first to walk away? It's like there's a lot of interesting questions here.
Yeah, there absolutely is. And I mean, we also see at the end of this preview where Dot is standing on what looks like Roy's porch with a gun pointed at somebody. We don't know who it is. Who do you guys think it is? Leave it in the comments. Do you think that it's Roy? Could it be Gator? I mean, who do you think that it could be? I mean, we've seen a little bit in our review, some of the comments. Some of you guys think it might be Wit. That Wit comes around the corner and she points the gun. Doesn't see him right away, and then she's
Yeah.
like, "Oh no, it's actually Wit. What are you doing here?" kind of thing. Who do
Yeah.
you guys think it'll be? Who do you think it's going to be?
I like that. I like the idea of it being Wit because I feel like if it's Gator at this point, she's gonna see Gator in sort of the state that he's in, and I mean maybe it's similar where she holds it up for a second and she's like, "Oh no, you're in a really bad situation here," and I think ultimately this. I'm not gonna say it's a red herring because this could be the scene of the final showdown here, but I think it's a visual they clearly want us to get because they sort of want us to believe, okay, Dot is going to be empowered in this moment. And you look at her hair, you look at sort of
Mhm.
her weight, like she's in rougher shape in that moment than it seems like she is in any other part of the preview. So
Mhm.
that suggests to me that is sort of there's already been a lot of chaos that has gone on, and she has already found a way to get past it. Like maybe she's already in that moment found a way to take down Roy, and she's just like making sure there's nobody else that's like coming in at her at that point.
There's been a lot of discussion in the comment section, just online, of
Yeah.
who's actually going to be the person to take down Roy. And I had thought maybe it would be a mix of Dot and Gator. I know there's lots of other people that think maybe just Gator is going to have his moment in the sun after what happened in the last episode with him losing his sight and his father then being like, basically, well, then you're useless to me. Like, you were never that great and now you're useless to me. So now you're left, kind of thing. But for me, it wouldn't be as satisfying if it's just Gator. But, we've said that we don't think that Gator can be redeemed. We're not here
Yeah.
for a redemption arc on Gator. That is not what the show is really about. However, he was a child that was going through some of the same things that Dot was going through with what was happening to Linda, that they both were watching what was happening to his mom. And then he was by himself with Roy, raised to be this guy, which is not great. Gator is not a great guy. Like,
No.
let's just say that. We'll say it as that. He's not a great guy. So I'm not here for a redemption arc for him, but can he be put on a different path? I said in the last video too, I believe that people can change. They can change at any age, at any time, based on what happens to them in their lives, who comes into their lives, who can put them on a different path where they can see a different way. I think people can change. And I think that for him, I don't know that what happened with Munch is the thing that's going to make him change. Roy's reaction to him is the thing that could make him on the path to change. Or if Dot gives him some sort of compassion at the end of it to be like, wow, after everything I did to her, she's still willing to, put out her hand to me to help me. Like maybe that's the change. Maybe nothing comes and he never learns a lesson from this at all.
I want to believe that he does. I want to believe that he does, and that it's ultimately Dot who is sort of the final thing that turns him around a little bit because she does understand better than anyone that a lot of his actions and behavior are the product of his upbringing. Like that was even sort of inferred in the last conversation they had when,
Mhm.
Dot was trapped. And I think that Gator has a pretty big role to play in everything that's happening with Roy at the end of this. Now, I
Mm.
will
Yeah, we
say
saw him in the tunnels.
he's in the tunnels.
We also saw Wit at the door of the tunnels. I'm wondering if they're going to have a showdown in the tunnels.
I think it's certainly possible they're going to have a showdown in the tunnels, but I hope that Wit is not the undoing of Gator in the sense that yeah, sure. Wit, you can arrest Gator at the end of this. Like, I'm fine with that. I think Gator probably does end this show either dead or arrested. Like,
Mhm.
there are still consequences that are coming, and Wit can be the person who administers some of them. But
Mhm.
I just hope that before that happens, he can have either an active role in helping Dot or killing Roy. And now I have seen a lot of the comments that are like, okay, Gator's blind now. He can't do anything. And it's just like, okay, guys, number one, I am fully blind in one eye. I'm legally blind in the other eye. I can still do a lot of things. I can't drive, but I can still do a lot of things. And I know a lot of people who are fully blind because I've been to blind commissions and I've seen and talked with other people and like they can still do a lot of things too. So I don't think we can sit here and be like, okay, just because Gator's blind, he's going to be incapable of taking down Roy. Roy already thinks at this point that Gator's nothing. So his guard is already down when it comes to him. Gator knows that basically the layout of this entire place. He knows, okay, this is where this building is. This is where the
Mhm.
tunnels are. And he's just gone through a traumatic experience, but you do have that muscle memory. You do have sort of that adrenaline that can kick in this moment. And I think he could be very, very proactive still in being like, okay, this is how my father really thinks of me. And even if he's not directly, killing Roy, he might be like, okay, I need to find a way to help Dot. I can still, help her, show her the way to get out of here, or show her some sort of other way to help her defend herself. Like, I still think all of that is possible, and it's okay to think that and still want Gator to be either dead or arrested at the end of this, because he can't just get off scot-free for what he's done.
Consequences need to come for Gator. And I know that there'll be some people in the comments that are like, well, he already got his consequences. He lost his sight.
Yeah.
He got his consequences with Munch. That's not
Yeah.
the only person that he has to pay consequences to. He also has to pay consequences to what he's done to Dot as well. So,
Yeah.
those consequences, they're also still coming. But how are they going to end up coming? I agree. I think he's either going to end up dead or in jail or something. Something's
Yeah.
coming.
Now, when it comes to what's going to happen here to Roy, I don't think there's anything satisfying other than just that he's got to go. Like, I don't think that Roy being arrested is enough. Like, I really just think he's got to go. He's just got to meet the ultimate end. And how that happens, how I hope that this happens, is just that Dot has been established throughout this show as being very resourceful and
Hmm.
very creative, and she's willing to do whatever she can to get out of a situation. And I think it would just be very signature Fargo that she does this yet again. I think just, Roy just showing up and Dot just straight shooting him. Yes, it's the end of Roy. We can celebrate that. I just don't know if it's going to be that simple, even if it's something that Dot ultimately bludgeons him with things that are in the kitchen. And maybe that's kind of like the pseudo reference to Bisquick. And that's sort of bringing us back to sort of the start of this show somehow. But I think the undoing of Roy, however it happens, I think it's going to be creative and it's going to be sort of indicative of the person Dot is and what we have watched. And they got to make this awesome for us.
Yeah, I think that her on the porch with a gun is a red herring, that it's not Roy that's on the other side of it. And I do think with how scrappy she's been and crafty and unique ways that she's been able to get out of situations without just like, oh, I'm just going to pull out a gun and kill Roy, that she's going to be able to finish this off in a way that is signature Dot, that she is crafty, scrappy, and is going to use everything that she can to be able to get out of a situation. And I think that Roy will go in that kind of unique way where she pulls out those piercings. That's got to be part of it. They got to go, right? Listen, it can't be quick. No, not for everything that Roy has put her through. This cannot be quick. It won't be satisfying. Consequences are coming. Well, they need to be really, really solid
Oh
consequences.
boy.
And I mean, Wit has also sort of said that she's really unique and crafty and all
Yeah.
this. And then we just had Munch, who helped her get out of the situation she was in under the windmill, where all of Roy's guys were coming to get her, and he was able to help, clear them out, called her a tiger again, and was like, it's not, you can't just shoot a tiger, in a barrel kind of thing. You need to be able to get out there and deal with this the way that you would deal with this as a tiger. And, I think that that's how we're going to see this come to an end.
Here's another thing that I think is going to happen in the midst of all of this, and this is something I've been saying for weeks, is that Roy's going to lose everybody around him. And yes, he has called people in, but at the same time, I think you've got a lot of people out there that are probably just like puffing their chests out, cosplaying as tough guys, trying to be like, look at me.
Oh my goodness. Tell me what you really think, Matt.
Yeah, but I think once
Cosplay.
these people, the chips are really down and they're just like, oh, these feds are serious. There's a lot of these cowards that are just going to leave. Like, they're not all going to stick with Roy, regardless of whatever Roy is saying. Yeah, sure, there'll be a couple of them, but I think he's going to lose some people that way. Or after a couple of people die, they're going to be like, what are we doing here? And then they're going to leave. And it's already been established that his father-in-law is just sort of like, why are we doing this again? Like, and, Roy's just ignoring it and getting like sandwich orders and all this other stuff. I think they're eventually also going to leave. And, I think there's a universe here, especially if, Karen just listens a lot to what her father says. And, if he was very integral in, her and Roy getting together in the first place, where, father-in-law takes Karen out of the situation too. And then she's gone. Maybe their kids are gone. Roy's just sort of there. Gator's not really with him anymore because of all of that. I think there's just a really good chance that this is all just going to shrink down as like chaotic and epic as it seems to be based on the preview.
Watching Roy in a bit of isolation would be satisfying. That's not the ultimate end, but watching him lose everything, lose his, status as a sheriff or as like a man about town, the people that were supporting him and having them all leave, like him just being by himself at the end of this, just stripped down to nothing before he dies. Yeah.
Okay, we have to take just a moment here to address Munch, who in the preview, rather than partaking seemingly in what is going on, and maybe he will, but he's just like clinking a bottle of orange soda. And when I see orange soda on a screen, I just sit here and I'm like, this is my moment. I have been waiting all my life to do this. Who loves orange soda? Munch loves orange soda. Is it true? Come on, Keenan and Kel fans, rejoice it. I do. Ooh, Munch.
Okay.
I was hard on you, but now that you're drinking the orange soda, Munch may be my favorite character in Fargo.
It's interesting how much you also love orange soda, but really it's Mountain Dew.
It's funny. They come up with this, they have an orange flavored Mountain Dew that they just don't sell in my area. So it's like I can't bring my great loves together, but I'm really excited for this finale. I'm also feeling kind of bittersweet about it because I've loved this season of Fargo so much. This has been my favorite season in years.
Yeah, it's been a really solid season all the way through. They've taken some really big swings and really big risks with some of their episodes. Like, I know not everyone loved the puppet episode, but those of us who loved it, loved it. It was very, very unique. It was extremely well done. This whole season has been excellent, even though the topic has been and the subject matter has been very, very dark and very difficult to deal with. They have handled it beautifully.
Let's just hope they're able to stick the landing here. I'm more than confident they will. I'm more than confident we're going to get a season 6. It'll be its own story and all of that. But, for now, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you guys don't miss anything else on Fargo. Also, thank you to our patrons for your support. We do live streams every week talking all about Fargo, and check that out. We have it in the description below. We'll see you guys here next time.